Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we are stuck here with some missing tables in the Users Manager plugin. But I've had a thought about this, and the Users Manager can work just fine without user roles table, row permission, and user roles map. These tables are most suited to the user roles plugin instead, so we can remove these guys from here. So what we're going to do is, let's go to Users Manager here, and I'm going to go to plugin. So this is a Users Manager. I'll go to plugin. Now I want to save the names that I've used here for these tables. I don't want to erase this. So what I'll do is I'll duplicate this and put this table on table 2, something like that. We'll delete this after we start using the, after we create the user roles plugin. I just want to keep these here. So the only table really required is the users table, because it can run just fine with only the users table. So once I do that and refresh, things work as intended. So it's saying unidentified array key rows table on line 64. Let's see what that issue is. Let's go to line 64, and this is the one here. Okay, so rows table is not a thing anymore. Okay, so what we can do here, instead of saying tables 2, we can say optional tables. So I'm gonna do that and say optional tables. Let me remove users table here. So these are optional tables here, and yeah, so let me grab that from optional tables, copy, and come here. That way those are not compulsory. Wait. So the reason I'm doing this is because we don't want the less dependencies each plugin has on another, the better. So this can run without dealing with user roles just fine. But once we have user roles, we'll add some extra functionality here so that we can have rows as well to select. So if I view like this, there's no rows down here, but we can add that functionality once we have the rows table. But we'll add it in such a way that even when the user roles plugin does not exist, this will run just fine. So for it, depending on the basic auth, that's fine. At least it depends on just one other plugin, so that's okay. So this solves that problem. We have optional tables here, which is nice. Now what we'll do is go to wait a second. Yes, we go to dependencies now. So in the JSON file, we have this dependency thingy here. Now I want to enforce this just like we're enforcing the tables thingy. So we're going to go to functions. I'll copy this, dependencies, and let's go to functions here. There's a part that loads where we load actual plugins. So sort plugins, and then there's this part where we load plugins. Okay, so there's also a part here where we check if index is active or not. Where is that? Okay, so JSON active is here, and if the JSON object actually works, I want to check on dependencies as well. So let's create a variable over here. We'll call it dependencies, and we'll set it to an empty array like so. Okay, so once we get here, here actually, once the JSON file is set to work. Also, if that's active, we should only care if it's active. So let's do it from within here. In fact, we don't even need to care here. I can put it right about here. So let me duplicate this and then say something like dependencies, yeah. So dependencies will exist, right? Let me get this. If it does not, what do? We save it as an object. So empty array, and then cast it as an object, like so. Okay. So if it doesn't exist, we cast it as an empty object, which is nice. All right, so just to be sure that it does exist. And then we need also version number. Let me duplicate this. There's version. So if version does not exist, then we are going to do this, 0.0.0. So we'll assume it's version 1, like that. Okay, cool. So now that we have that info, and we make sure it's always there, when we are looping through this, we can do some checks as well. So let's try that. So up, I want to see what's contained in here. Oh, there's actually JSON object. Okay, so this checks if the file exists, but before we do that, we should put a warning to make sure that whatever dependencies exist, we deal with them. So I wanted to use the array column function here, but I just remembered, yeah, this is an array, isn't it? It is an array. Yeah, that is true. Okay, so I want to check if this has any dependencies before I load the file. So I'm going to say if not empty JSON dependencies. So here we'll do dd, and then I'll just paste dependencies like that. Okay, so I need to know what plugin this is. Dependencies for plugin, and then let's do JSON plugin ID. Okay, let's try that, just that for now. So if I refresh, okay, dependencies for plugin. So here it doesn't know define property plugin ID. Okay, because it's called ID. Let's move back and let's refresh. Okay, so there are dependencies for basic auth, dependencies for basic admin, and dependencies for users manager. Is there? Is this true? So let me do this like that, just to be sure we're on the same page. So this one is empty, but why does it do that? This one is empty, only this one has stuff in it. So something wrong with the not empty function. We need a different way to know whether an object has dependencies. So what we'll say is if is set, it will always be set, right? Okay, what we're gonna do is, it's easier when we convert these things to arrays. Let me try this. Okay, so that actually worked. Okay, so we cast it as an array, which changes it to an array, and then we can check if those dependencies do exist. Okay, cool. So there's only one for this plugin, which is Users Manager. So the next step now is to check if that plugin actually exists. So app plugins, right? We could create a function called plugin exists. Maybe let's do that. Wait a second. Okay. Okay. So here we expect a string of the plugin ID, and let's return a boolean, true or false. Like so. So what we want is to grab the app variable, and then we do a loop and say for each app plugins, because that's the one that contains the plugins in there. So we could put an if statement and say if not empty. This is only used in one place, so we don't need that. Plugins return, it doesn't look like this. Okay, so as we loop through here, actually, instead of grabbing this whole thing, we can just do this. So say IDs is equal to array column. The input is that, and the key I'm looking for is ID. Okay, and then all we have to do is use the in array. So I can say something like but we need the version number as well, so maybe this won't work out as intended. Yeah, we need to check the version number as well to make sure if plugin exists. No, we don't even need to check the version number here actually. Okay, what we're gonna do is this instead. I think it will still work. So the needle is what we are looking for. So that's the brought-in plugin ID. The haystack is the array, which is IDs. So if in array, which means it's there, then what we will return instead is app plugins, and then okay, so this just returns true or false. So a bit of a toughie here because I wanted to know exactly where we are getting that from. So I'm going to use array search, I think, instead. Let's see, needle and haystack. Okay, so pretty much the same. So I'm going to say key is equal to, I think array search returns a key when it finds the item. plugin exists, key, and then let's put that key here. Okay, so if the plugin exists, we return data about that plugin. So I think that's much better. But since now this is no longer a boolean anymore, it can be an object as well. So let's just put either mixed, or we can put bool and then say object, something like that. Okay, so instead of this, now we're going to say dependency. If dependencies are not empty, then inside dependency there should be items in there. So let's loop through them. So I'm going to say for each as well inside here. We are looping through the dependencies now. So I'm going to do JSON dependencies, but I want this to be an array instead, easier to deal with. Or is it? Yeah, I guess, yeah, because we can only do for each on an array anyway. So we do need the key and the value. So the key is the plugin ID, and the value is the version. Yeah, something like this. So as we loop in here, let me mute these guys. Then I can do plugin exists, and then let's put the plugin ID there. Yeah, let's see what's returned of that. So I'm gonna go back and let's refresh. So nothing came back. Alright, so let's figure out what's going on. So here I'll be doing, let's do this. Let's see plugin ID. Okay, so there's basic auth there, which means plugin ID works as intended. And then it's just plugin exists that isn't returning the right stuff. So let's try over here to echo out the key. Okay, so there's nothing. So here the only variable I'm not sure of is array key. So what I'm gonna array search, sorry. I'm going to do this first of all. Let me figure out the IDs, if there's anything in there. Okay, so the IDs are correctly gotten, the IDs of the plugins, that's good. But then now let's put, let's see what array search returns for that plugin ID we've been given. So let's refresh. It returns a 0. Okay, because that's the first item in there, in that list. So I guess that's what, that makes sense. The key is 0, because basic auth is at the beginning. Okay, but let's try plugin ID we know does not exist. Let's see what it brings up. Something like this. So as opposed to 0, it brings out nothing. But I'm not really sure, sorry, the data type. So I'll use var dump instead, like so. Refresh. Okay, so it returns a boolean and it's false. Okay, so I know here. So what I'll do here, I'll say if key. Okay, so let me just grab this here and put it there. Key is equal to array search. And then let's do if key is not equal to false. So if it's not false, then return that. So let's see what we get from there. Okay, syntax error 193. What are we? Oh, okay, forgotten the semicolon there. Refresh. Okay, so it returned the correct data for the item that requires a dependency. Okay, so that's good. Now plugin exists works as intended. So if plugin exists, basic, but if we try and do this to try and find a non-existing plugin, we don't get anything. So that's cool. So it works as intended. So here, if plugin exists, so for each dependency, we're gonna say plugin data is equal to that, and then if plugin exists that, okay, great. So we'll put an if statement there like so. Okay, so if this is true, we need to also check for something here. If plugin data and wait a second. So if it does not work out here, the plugin wasn't found. So we do dd missing plugin dependency . Okay, so we go for the plugin ID that's missing, like so, and then die like that. So we have a missing plugin dependency. This is the one, and then requested by okay, so what plugin is requesting this? So for each plugin as JSON, so we'll grab that from JSON and put the ID there, like this, ID, and then die. So this will not show here at all because we have the correct thing. Now what we can do is let's test a plugin that wait a second. If I go to basic auth, the config for basic auth, I want to change, put a 1 there so that it's no longer basic auth. So let's see what will happen now. So there we go. So it says missing plugin dependency basic auth requested by plugin users manager. Okay, so let's put that here, back to functions. Maybe this could be one line. Like so. And then let's move this here. Boom. Remove that. Okay. Okay, so let's come back and see that. So missing plugin dependency basic auth requested by plugin users manager. So here it says users manager is requesting that basic auth should exist. Okay, but we shouldn't yeah, this works just fine. Also, one thing we should note here is version number is important. So right about here, we can add version and then put a comma. So the version here comes down to, let's do this, boop, 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 boop. So the version we grab from plugin, not plugin ID, plugin data. No, there's no plugin data here. So the version is here. Let's put that version there, like so. Okay, that's important. So missing plugin dependency basic auth. Let's remove that comma. Basic auth version 1.00 requested by plugin users manager. Okay, so at least that tells us the missing dependency. Now this is in one occasion where we don't actually find the data, but what if the data is there but the version is different? Okay, so here I'm gonna do here, check for plugin dependencies, like that. Okay, so here now we have to compare the version number. So there's version here, and say version is equal to string replace. We replace all dots there with nothing in the version. Okay, so that becomes a number. So that's the version for the dependency. And what about the current version that exists? Plugin data is there. Okay. Okay, so required version, existing version. So exactly what we're going to do here is what we will do even here. Okay, so we remove those zeros, and we should probably cast this as an int, the whole thing, like this. Okay, that's not what you're supposed to do when casting. You do this. Yeah, so the result is an integer, like that. Okay, so here it's just now a matter of checking which is bigger. So if required version is equal to, is greater, oh wait, no, let's check the existing version. Is if the existing version is greater or equal to the required version, then everything is fine. But if it is less than, so let's just put less than, if the existing version is less than the required version, then we will do this again as well. So let me move this here and paste it there, like so. Okay, cool. Let me refresh. So this is the code in case I missed, or you missed something. From here to there is where we've added some new code here. Check for dependencies, and then here we can say load plugin file. Okay, so there we go. So let's give it a try. We go back to the basic auth. Let's remove that one we had added. It shouldn't show any dependency problem. But what if we go back to users manager in the now we need version 2. Let's say maybe we put it 3 at the end there, version 1.0.3. Let's see what happens. If I refresh, then it says missing plugin dependency, basic auth version 1.03 requested by that one. So just by doing that, we have solved the dependency issues. Now everything is back to normal. Alrighty then, guys. So this ends the plugin. This ends this plugin creation for the users manager. Next, we're going to create the rows manager, user rows manager, so that we can manage rows and have them show here as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you in the next video.